There are moments in your life when it feels as if the ground beneath you is shifting, when pressure rises on every side, when storms gather and you wonder how much more you're supposed to carry. But listen closely, because right now, in this very hour, something greater is happening, something you cannot always see, but you can feel in your spirit. God is moving mountains around you. God is rearranging what once felt immovable. God is clearing paths you thought were blocked forever. And if you pay attention with the eyes of faith, you will notice that the obstacles that once towered over you have begun to tremble. There comes a point when God steps into a situation not with a whisper, but with a force that shakes the unseen. And many people never recognize it because they expect the sign to be gentle, quiet, or easy. But when God moves a mountain, the ground rumbles, the atmosphere shifts, the spiritual landscape realigns. It might shake your comfort, but it will not shake your foundation, because your foundation is God Himself. When something that once resisted you suddenly begins to loosen its grip, that is not coincidence. That is not luck. That is not your strength. That is the power of God at work. You may not always understand why God waited. You may not grasp why He allowed the mountain to stand in your path for so long. But what you didn't see was what was happening behind the scenes. God was building your endurance. God was strengthening your spirit. God was preparing your heart for what comes after the mountain moves. Because when God shifts something that has stood in your way, He does it for a purpose. And that purpose is always bigger, deeper, and more powerful than what you imagine. Sometimes the mountain is not just a problem in front of you. Sometimes it's a fear inside you, a wound you never close, a thought you believe for too long. And when God begins to move those inner mountains, it can feel like your entire world is being shaken. But the shaking is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to free you. God is not just moving mountains around you. God is moving mountains within you. And that shift is what opens the door to blessings that once felt unreachable. Many people pray for God to remove a mountain without realizing that God might first change the person who must climb beyond it. Mountains don't move because we demand them to. Mountains move because God decides the time has come to release you. The time has come to lift you. The time has come to take you further. God is shifting the weight of what once pressed you down. He is lifting burdens you carried in silence. He is realigning situations that seemed hopeless, and He is doing it with a power no human hand can imitate. Look at your life for a moment. Think about what has resisted you. Think about the closed doors, the delayed answers, the battles that seem never ending. Now recognize this truth. If God wanted those mountains to remain, they would have remained. If God wanted that door closed forever, nothing could open it. If God wanted that difficulty to last a lifetime, you wouldn't feel the pressure lifting. But you do. You feel the shift. You sense the changes. You notice the movement. These are not accidents. These are the fingerprints of God on your life. When God moves a mountain, it rarely happens the way you expect. You might think the mountain would simply disappear, but instead God may relocate it. God may reshape it. God may carve a path straight through it. Because God's goal is not just to eliminate your challenges. God's goal is to reveal His power through them. When the mountain moves, your faith rises. When the mountain shifts, your trust deepens. When the mountain crumbles, you see the strength of God clearly. And when you witness what God can do, you never doubt Him the same way again. Some mountains move quietly, some move violently, some move slowly, some move all at once. But every mountain moves at the precise moment God declares it. Not a moment earlier, not a moment later. And I want you to hear this clearly. Your moment is happening now. God is not preparing to move mountains around you. God is moving them right now. While you sit here, while you listen, while your heart reaches upward, the shift has already begun. Doors you thought were locked are loosening. People who stood in your way are stepping aside. Situations designed to break you are turning in your favor. God is sending strength you didn't know you could carry. I want you to picture what has felt too heavy for you. The financial weight, the emotional strain, the uncertainty that kept you awake at night, the fears that whispered you were not enough. Now see the hand of God resting on those very mountains, applying pressure, breaking limitations, overturning barriers. God is not asking that mountain to move. God is commanding it, and what God commands cannot resist. When God moves, nothing remains the same. The atmosphere shifts. The spiritual climate changes. The ground beneath your life adjusts to make room for what God is sending next. You may feel stretched. You may feel shaken. You may feel like you are standing in unfamiliar territory. But that is what it feels like when God takes you from where you were to where you must go. Growth is uncomfortable. Elevation is unsettling. Breakthroughs disrupt the patterns you've lived with for years. But it is all part of God's movement. There is a reason you felt resistance before this moment. The mountain did not want to move. The enemy did not want you free. Your past did not want to release you. But when God decides to shift, everything else must bow. The delays break, the chains fall, the obstacles scatter, and you step forward into what was already written for you long before the mountain ever existed. Some of you have been wondering why life felt so tight recently, why relationships changed, why opportunities slipped away, why doors closed, why certain people faded from your path. It is because God is clearing space. Mountains do not move unless space is made. God removed what could not go with you. God shifted what no longer aligned with your calling. God closed doors that were too small for your purpose. And as painful as that pruning was, it was necessary because what God is moving you into requires room. It requires freedom. It requires uncluttered vision. You have been asking God to bring blessings, and God heard you. But what you didn't see was the preparation. Blessings cannot sit on unstable ground. Miracles cannot rest on shaky foundations. Purpose cannot grow in crowded soil. So God began to move, not against you, but for you, not to take from you, but to make room for what is coming. And now the mountains that once intimidated you are being lifted from your path. You don't have to beg God to do what he already intends to do. You don't have to force the mountain to move. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to push what only God can shift. Your only duty is to trust, to stay aligned, to stay surrendered, to stay anchored in the one who sees beyond the mountain and knows where you belong. God is not limited by the size of what stands before you. God is not threatened by the weight of what tries to overwhelm you. And God is not confused by the complexity of your situation. God sees every angle. God knows every detail. God understands every pressure point. And when he moves, everything must respond. There have been moments when you wondered if God forgot you. Moments when it felt like your prayers bounced back without answers. Moments when silence felt like rejection. But silence is not absence. Silence is not neglect. Silence is not punishment. Silence is preparation. While you waited, God was positioning you. While you prayed, God was aligning things. While you held on, God was setting the stage. And now the season of shaking has arrived, not to break you, but to free you. You may feel a tension in your spirit, a stirring, a sense that something is happening, even if you cannot see it yet. That is the sign of God's movement. When God prepares to shift a mountain, he first shifts something in you. He awakens. He strengthens. He stirs. He calls your attention away from what was and toward what is coming. That internal stirring is the early tremor before the mountain moves. You might be tempted to say, but nothing has changed. Don't be fooled by what your eyes cannot detect. Mountains begin to move deep beneath the surface long before the visible rocks slide. You are in the early stages of a breakthrough that will reshape your entire path. God has already placed his hand on the situation. And once God touches something, it cannot remain the same. There is a power that activates when you trust God with your whole heart. Not half trust, not conditional trust, full trust. Trust that stands even when the mountain looms. Trust that stays firm even when the path looks blocked. Trust that whispers God is working even when everything feels still. And when God sees that kind of trust in you, he moves on your behalf with a force that overturns every barrier. Some of you have been walking around a mountain for years. You've cried about it. You've prayed about it. You've tried to climb it. You've tried to ignore it. You've wondered why it wouldn't move. But hear this in your spirit. The reason it didn't move before was because the timing wasn't right. You weren't ready. The ground wasn't prepared. The path wasn't clear. The blessing wasn't aligned. But now things are different. Now the conditions have shifted. Now God has said it is time. And when God declares it is time, everything submits. You are stepping into a season where mountains you thought were permanent will crumble. Doors you thought were sealed will open. Burdens you thought you had to carry forever will fall away. And not because the mountain got weaker, but because God showed his strength. God is showing you what he can do when you stop depending on your own power. Think back to the moments in your life when you did not know how you'd make it. Somehow you survived. Somehow you found strength. Somehow you kept going when you should have fallen apart. That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was God holding you up. And the same God who held you then is the God moving mountains. Now you may feel unqualified. You may feel small. You may feel tired, but God does not choose you because you feel strong. God chooses you because he is strong. God does not move the mountain because you earned it. God moves the mountain because he is faithful. When God decides to show his power in your life, your weakness does not disqualify you. It positions you. Because when you cannot do it, God can. When you cannot push it, God pushes it. When you cannot see the way, God reveals it. You are not standing where you are by accident. Your life is not random. Your story is not directionless. Every mountain you faced had a purpose. Every delay had a lesson. Every struggle had a reason. God uses everything, even the parts you wish never happened. And now those very experiences are the fuel that propels you into the next level of your purpose. Don't underestimate what God is doing around you just because you cannot see the full picture. Mountains rarely move all at once. They shift piece by piece. Pressure builds. Foundations loosen. Cracks form. What looked immovable begins to weaken. And then one moment, one command from God, everything breaks open. That is where you are right now, in the breaking open, in the shifting, in the divine rearranging. You might feel uncertain. You might feel overwhelmed, but that is the feeling of transformation. That is the feeling of God taking you from one season to another. And sometimes God will allow the pressure to build so that you are pushed into the place you would not have gone unless the mountain moved. Everything that seemed delayed in your life is aligning. Everything that felt stuck is loosening. Everything that resisted is weakening. God is turning what once opposed you into what now elevates you. The very mountain that tried to block you will become the testimony that lifts you. You are not stepping into this shift alone. God is ahead of you. God is beside you. God is behind you, and God is within you. This is not your strength. This is not your strategy. This is not your intelligence. This is God. And because God is involved, you cannot fail. Now stand firm, lift your head, steady your heart. The ground may shake beneath you, but you will not fall. The mountain may tremble, but you will not be harmed. The atmosphere may change, but you will not be abandoned. You are protected. You are guided. You are carried. And every step you take now is supported by the power of God. God is moving mountains around you, not someday, but now. Not gradually, but decisively, not weakly, but with authority. So take courage, take heart, look forward with confidence, because what once stood in your path is being removed by the hand of the one who never fails. When God begins to move in your life, something awakens inside you that you cannot easily explain.